Hello, welcome to the video. Yeah, I'd just like to talk about Daniel 9, chapter 9, verses 24 to 27. If you go to the description below, it should be a link, Google Drive link to the PDF that you see here on the screen, and this is an interactive PDF. So I just want to talk about some things that I found to be deeply concerning. Probably around, it was sometime last summer 2022, I was hearing something that I was just like, what in the world is this all about? Because I just knew it was just not correct. And so I decided to make a video addressing these issues. So we have Daniel 9:24. So if you click on this link right here where it says ASV, that's American Standard Version, it'll open up this here, what you see here. Click on that, and it'll be the Bible Gateway. And so American Standard Version. Now the reason why I choose American Standard Version was here because it seems to be a pretty decent English translation when it comes to the Hebrew. All right. So some read Daniel 9:24, this first verse here of the 4 verses here, and think all six of these things here have to happen inside the 70th week. Year. A careful reading of the text suggests this is not so. Those who believe that either insert a 36-year gap in the middle of the 70th week or shift the entire 70 weeks over 36 years. So here's an example of somebody who put a gap in there. And the reason they put that gap, because of the first 3.5 years of the 70th week, they believed that certain portions of the 70 weeks did in fact take place during those first 3.5 years, which was from 80-26 to 80-30. I agree with the dates here. All right, that is 100% correct. I agree with that 100%. And I put a lot of time in trying to get the correct dates. However, the person puts the gap in here, and the last 3.5 years, it's really 80-66, not 80-67, to 80-70. And that's where it's highly problematic. Now, yeah, I agree, there was a great tribulation during that time. You had the tribulation going on at Jerusalem in the temple, and then you also had a tribulation going on throughout the Roman Empire. All right, so no dispute there. And so, yeah. So, I mean, overall, I personally agree with this. It's something, but this here, the gap, that is seriously wrong. Ministry to the Jews, no. That was the last half of the 70th week of Daniel. So this 3.5 years here, she closed that gap. These 3.5 years shift over to here. The ministry to the Jews was the second half. And then the first day went to the Gentiles, Acts chapter 10. That was the end of the 70 weeks. All right. So that's the view that I take. So I have a timeline showing that. So here's another one who reflects, or actually several timelines. You should click on this here. So these reflect those who have shifted the 70 weeks over 36 years. So these are basically the 10 Jubilee cycles. Okay, so the bottom 6 are the 10 Jubilee cycles, reflecting this resource down here by Mike Sullivan. So those who believe that the whole 70 weeks shifted over 36 years, where the last week of Daniel's 70 weeks, the 70th week, ended in 80-70. So they believe it ended in 80-70 and consummated 80-70. Where this view here says, no, the 70 weeks ended, and this is the source, by the way, timeline source. This timeline source for this one here. So, no, it ended in 80-33, but consummated in 80-70. Okay? In other words, the 70th week resulted in the consummation 40 years later. All right. So, yeah, so those are examples of that there. A careful reading of the text suggests that 70 weeks results in these 6 things. Okay, it does not mean it happens inside the 70th week. It can happen during or after the 70 weeks. Either way, it's directly connected to the 70 weeks. So here's the timeline reflecting this view. So 70 weeks fulfillment. So this here, you have the 70 weeks. You get the first 7, and then the 62, and then the last one. All right. So basically, here Daniel 9:24 right here. All 6 things are listed in order per verse 24. Okay. So the first 3 fulfilled, the cross and the gospel. Okay. So I'm actually going to modify this a little bit. So say gospel. So the gospel went to the Jews those final 3.5 years. All right. So this is the middle of the 70th week right here. This vertical line right here. Cross right in the middle. And those last 3.5 years here. Okay. That was gospel going to Jews. All right. And then you have bringing everlasting righteousness. So you can look up these verses yourself and come to the conclusion. You will see that there is no gap. Now, the seal of vision and prophecy, that's one that gets a lot of people. And I place a date of around 8066. Okay, so you click on date right here. Here's the source for that. Before Jerusalem fell, the book of Revelation by Kenneth Gentry. He did a nice job with that. So Revelation 10:4, this was written, says, seal up those things which are uttered and write them not. So vision and prophecy sealed up. So that was around 8066 Revelation written. And the reason why it's sealed up, because the house of Israel, the final judgment about to take place, and it took place 7 years later, 8073, when they were taken off the earth, if you will. So that was the end of the house of Israel. Let's see here. So when Jesus said in Mark 23 verse 38, was it? I think I have it in here somewhere. Yeah, 23 verse 38. Behold, your house left you desolate. Okay, so notice he did not say the house, a fraction of the house be left desolate. He said your house, referring to the whole house. All right. So that happened by the time that generation passed away. And that last day was September 22nd, 87, based on my timeline. The temple, however, destroyed like August 31st of 8070. That was the wrapping up of the age, if you will, the covenant order. That was not the end of all things. You still had the lawless one running around. He was destroyed until 8073. You still had the last of Jewish enemies, still the enemies of the house of Israel still running around. They weren't destroyed until April of 8073. And then you still had the 1260-day prophecy of Revelation 12:6, which started April 11th, 8070 and ended September 22nd, 8073. So I have that reflected in one of these timelines, okay? So careful reading the text. Okay, so we already went through that. Daniel 9:25, according to some, started around the time a temple was destroyed 420 BC. This view has no merit to it. I totally stand by that. So here, the 2 sources for that. It's written by Mike Sullivan. Now, Mike Sullivan, his source here, if you click on it, I don't want to say this is all bad material. There's good material in here, okay? It's just him, where he chooses to start it and where he chooses to end it, and his 10 Jubilee years, it's just cycles. It just, I just don't think there's any merit to it. Now, you might disagree. You might think there's merit to one of his. So this here, the bottom 6 timelines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it reflects his work. Actually, this one right here, I created just trying to make his work, knowing full well it did not fit with the end of 925, 27 anyway. But I was trying to make it work. So, yeah. And going back to this, to anoint the most holy. No, it did not say place. All right, so if you go back here, it said to anoint the most holy. The word place is not there. That has misled a lot of people, and it's really the most holy. Now, if you want to make a place, okay, but based on this article here, by Mike Sullivan, he's making most holy place the New Jerusalem. Well, that's not a place. Those are people, kind of like the church. Church is not a place, not a building. It's the people. So so it doesn't really fit the text accurately. So anyway, yeah. Alrighty, so continue on the end of 925. According to others, started in 458 BC Julian, which had merit to it. So here's the source for that. Click on this here. I encourage you to read through this carefully, and this has merit to it. I stand by this. All right. So this here is a refutal to Mike Sullivan's view, the idea that followed Jerusalem in 420 BC. I totally do not believe that happened in 420 BC or around that time. I just do not believe that. It's just no merit to that whatsoever. I think this was just made up by a bunch of people who claim to be Jews, who deny Christ, and they made this up to help push their agenda, their narrative that Jesus never existed, the Messiah. So it's unfortunate that Mike is using them as some sort of source. It is what it is. All right, so when Jesus baptized in AD 26, right here, that's when he became Messiah, the Prince. All right, he was the most holy. How so? He was without sin, and he became anointed the day he was baptized. All right, and he also said all judgment had been given to him, John 5:22, which makes him ruler. Okay, so it confirms that. So you click on this here, and it says right there, John 5:22, all judgment have been given to the Son. All right, so yeah, so the end of 925 worked perfectly. So you go 457 BC Gregorian, and you add 483 years to it. It brings you to 8026 Gregorian. All right, so it works out perfectly. So if you click here, you see how it works out. That's this top timeline right here. So this is 458 Julian. And that's 3303 in Hebraic or Jewish calendar. So if you go to the following year in Hebraic calendar, 3304, which is 457 BC Gregorian. So yeah, I need to change that to 457. That's Gregorian. Okay. And then you have, so the 10 Jubilee cycle did not start until 456. Oh, okay, that's 456 BC. Okay, yeah, so that reflects the 456 BC is pointing to this right here, really. So I need to clarify that. That's this timeline right here. That starts 456 BC. The reason why it starts 456 to 457 is because they finished rebuilding the wall in 52 days, and that was in 457 BC. It happened in the month of Elul in the Jewish calendar, which is the last month of the Jewish calendar towards the end of the year. So they had not sown seeds yet to start the 49-year cycles. So the following year, that when they first sowed the seed, that would have been 456 BC or 3304 Hebraic. Okay, and they would not have done the 50th year, the Jubilee year. If you click on this here, there's an article here. Jubilee year occurred only when all tribes were in the land. Okay, and that did not happen during these 490 years, the end of 70 weeks. All right. Afterward, they did, but then shortly after that, they left the earth anyway. So, yeah. So that's that. Let's see here. Yeah, then Daniel 9:26. The people of the prince, the Jews that Christ came for, were responsible for the destruction of the temple and Jerusalem by refusing to pay taxes to Caesar, taking over the Masada, and stop sacrifice to Caesar. Daniel's war led to the destruction of the temple in AD 70. So we have the sources here of that. All right, and there should be a timeline like right here. Oops, let me get that in there. I'm going to update this real quick here. It should be in there. Just bear with me here. Oops. Yeah, just bear with me. I'm going to update it. Should be in there. Oh, I'll fix that later. But there should be a timeline right here. All right. Actually, I am going to just go ahead and fix it. Just bear with me here. Bear with me. Okay, so that's updated. So now it's there. And I'm going to go ahead and add that into the Google Drive. Alrighty. Now it should be there. Alright, sorry about that. Alright, so consummation timeline. So you click on that. You will see all three of these things that I just mentioned right here. Okay. And that led to destruction of city and sanctuary. Instead of the line here at the break, you continue upward, this break, line here continued, and it said Nero declared war on Jerusalem. Okay, page 5. So you click on that, and it'll bring you to page 5, or you just go down to page 5, and you can read about it yourself. So these things are what led up to. So that's the fulfillment in Daniel 9:26. That had caused a lot of confusion for a lot of people. But I hope one thing you know that I follow the basic rules of grammar of the scriptures. So when it says the people to print, I am still following Messiah to print, the main subject being Jesus Christ, Messiah to print. That never changes. And how do I know that? Because I am following basic rules of grammar of the scriptures. Your typical believer today does not do that. If my theology does not fit the basic rules of grammar of scripture, then my theology is contrary to scripture. It's that simple. And it's very common today. Even people with PhDs, it doesn't matter. I mean, most intellectual people, they believe something they've heard to be true, and they mold scripture around that false piece of information. And way to check that is by hermeneutics, paying attention to basic rules of grammar of the scripture. All right. So Daniel 9:27, the 70th week, okay, from AD 26, 80, 33, led to the full end, house of Israel left desolate, per Matthew 23:38, or consummation, which was from AD 66 to AD 73. Notice the grammar. The grammar of the text does not allow one to move, oops, I need to add an E there, to move the 70th week to the consummation and even unto the full end. It does not allow that. Just shift it. All right. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you see where I'm coming from. If you're one that thinks that before you saw this video, you saw everything had to happen inside the 70th week, and now you realize after reading the text, oh, wait a minute, that's just not the case. Well, I'd love to hear your comment below. If that opened your eyes a little bit. I think a lot of people have been misled. And it's a widespread teaching and acceptance that had gone through all over the place. So anyway, so I think that's all I have. So hopefully you'll see that my view, there's a nice continuity and flow to all this. You don't have to do all this fancy gymnastics to the text, and you can go by the basic rules of grammar of the text, and it all flows nicely. So alrighty, well, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and you have a great day. Thank you.